Thanks for clicking. The Canadian Real Estate Association, the CREA, has released its data for the month of August, showing a national sales market that is slowing down rapidly. And the data comes amidst the speech from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who announced this week that home prices have risen far too high in Canada.
You must have been at the top of your class.
However, in his monthly hard-hitting interview, CREA economist Sean Cathcart noted that the market is stabilizing and that viewers should be on the lookout for deceptive reporting.
Watch out for reporting, because there will be some that says prices are now on the rise again, sort of now. That already happened, and it already looks like it's over.
You betrayed me. You betrayed us both.
Indeed. So what I want to do today is go over Canada's real estate data for the month of August, take a look at Sean Cathcart's interview and what he says we can expect in the real estate market going forward, and then discuss what to look for next. Speaking of next, Canada's inflation data is set to be released on Tuesday, which will obviously have a big impact on the Bank of Canada's October interest rate announcement. We'll obviously have an update out on that data on this channel. Click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, let's get into this data. Onto the data. First up, the benchmark price. The benchmark price, if you'll remember, that's the price of a home, which represents the most popular set of features. The benchmark price was up, though minutely, in August. The benchmark price in July was sitting at $754,300, and that was up to $757,600. And this is a very small increase in the benchmark price. And even the CREA's Sean Cathcart notes that this could be a sign that the market is continuing to slow.
Composite MLS HPI edged up 0.4% on a month-over-month basis in August 2023. That's only about half as large as the gain in July, which was only about half as large as the gains in April, May, and June.
I looked up to you.
And while benchmark price increases continue to slow down, the average price saw another substantial decrease in August. In July, the average price was $668,654, and that dropped over $18,000 to $650,140. And the slowing prices make sense when we look at the new listings data. New listings were up 0.8% in August, with sales declining 4.1% from July. So we have more listings coming to the market at a time when demand is shrinking, when demand is down due to the Bank of Canada's rate hikes. Obviously, we're going to see price decreases. In the national sales data showing that 0.8% increase in listings masks some of the major increases that we're seeing elsewhere. According to Real Estate Magazine, listings were up 12% in Edmonton, 15% in Hamilton, 21% in Kitchener, and 20% in London. So we have a flood of new listings coming to the market, and in the aftermath of the Bank of Canada's rate hike in July, the demand just isn't there. And, says Cathcart, it's likely to remain that way for some time, with the markets believing that the bank will be holding on rates for the foreseeable future.
The good news is financial markets currently seem to think the Bank of Canada is at the top this time. The bad news is that they also think we're going to be stuck there for another whole year. So they're not going down anytime soon based on current expectations.
And yeah, this corresponds with what all of the big banks have been predicting, with all 6 of the big banks expecting the policy rate to either rise or remain unchanged for the remainder of this year, though it's worth noting that many are expecting rate cuts later on next year. With that said, I think it's also worth briefly noting that at this point in time last year, the banks were predicting very similar rates for the end of 2023, predictions which, obviously, did not pan out.
How was I supposed to know?
Speaking of last year, prices are up from this point in time last year. They're up 0.4% from August of 2022, back when prices were correcting. However, says Cathcart, this is due in large part to base effects.
Those year-over-year comparisons will actually continue to rise in the months ahead because of how prices continue to decline through the second half of 2022. So that in stats is called a base effect. It's simply a relic of the second half of last year. It's not about what's going on now.
As such, as mentioned, Cathcart stresses that we need to be on the lookout for deceptive reporting on the real estate market.
So watch out for reporting, because there will be some that says prices are now on the rise again, sort of now. That already happened, and it already looks like it's over.
All right. Well, you heard it here first.
And that's definitely a good point. And I think we can all now say with some certainty that the CREA has taught us to be on the lookout for deceptive reporting. But Cathcart does have a good point, as only a few hours after the release of this data, we saw reports coming out that Canada's real estate prices were stabilizing, with the average price up 2.1% from last year. In fact, a lot of the reports that we've been seeing on the real estate market are fairly similar to the one issued by the CREA at this point in time last year, when the CREA noted that prices were stabilizing, that the Bank of Canada wasn't expected to go too much higher than its 3.25% policy rate, and that OSFI was likely thinking very hard about the stress test. And of course, following that report last year, the benchmark price fell another $40,000. The Bank of Canada raised another 175 basis points, and OSFI proposed new rules to tighten, not loosen, but tighten credit conditions. But I digress. So, in summary, the benchmark price is up about $3,000, but slowing fast. The average price is down over $18,000. We're seeing a flood of new listings, and demand has been largely tamped down by the Bank of Canada, and likely to continue to do so. And I took note today to mention what analysts, what banks, what the CREA was saying at this point in time last year, as a means of illustrating that nobody knows what is going to happen to the real estate market going forward. 1 week ago, economists were saying that the Bank of Canada was probably done with rate hikes. 4 days later, U.S. core inflation came in much hotter than expected, surprising upward for the first time in 6 months, opening the door for another rate hike for the Fed, and thus the Bank of Canada as well. As it stands right now, a flood of new listings is coming to the market. We're seeing major increases in listings in a lot of the major markets at a time when demand has been severely tamped down. As such, I think it's reasonable to assert that the Bank of Canada may or may not be done with rate hikes. We may or may not have one more rate hike left in store, or we could have more than that. The future is definitely uncertain, and it was at this point in time last year when all of these same analysts, many of these same analysts, were coming out saying that the Bank of Canada was going to be almost done with the rate hikes. And then, as we all know, a lot of people jumped into the market and the bank resumed on rate hikes. So, when entering the real estate market, it's impossible for you, for me, for the banks, for anyone to properly predict when the bank is going to be cutting on rates. The main factor to consider going forward buying real estate is, does it fit the budget? Does it fit your budget? Are the payments affordable? And is it the right home for you? With that said, we will continue to monitor Canada's real estate market and the Bank of Canada's effect on it on this channel. Click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, thanks so much for watching.